This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Welcome to Sports Source Hardball. I'm Will Heflin with you as always, joined by AJ Simcox and Andrew Lee. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Show support for shows just like ours. Guys, Tennessee's lost 5 of the last 6, coming off a series loss against Vanderbilt. Looked exactly the same as all the series during this slide. You win Friday, or you win one of the first 2, essentially, and then you've got an opportunity at home in a rubber match. For the 4th straight time at home, you lose. So what'd you guys see?
I mean, like you said, it was more of the same. You get a dominant outing from Doyle on Friday night. You pick up that win, and then Saturday goes about how it's been going. A walk or a single turns into a double or a triple because of stolen bases, and you give up a couple runs, have some defensive errors. Next thing you know, they even the series, and then Sunday, pitching isn't great, and it's more of the same. 6
errors, Andrew, this weekend.
Tough to overcome as a pitcher, and I've said it about years past. When you score 8, 9, 10 runs a game, you can paint over a lot of ugly bumps and bruises. But when you're scoring 4, 5, 6 in those Friday and Saturday games, each run kind of matters. I know close game on Saturday that kind of got ugly later. Same thing on Sunday. And all of a sudden you think back to the first inning where you turn a single into a triple, ground ball to second base, scores a run in the first inning, and then we score in the bottom of the first, and people say, oh, we're back at it. But at the end of the game, that's become the difference. And it's not just the run game. I feel like a lot of those little things have just added up, and they turn into 2 or 3 run losses, it seems like, on those weekend games that decide a series.
Yeah. Heflin, in a previous episode, I asked you about what the staff's viewpoint is on the run game as opposed to the battle between the rubber on the mound and home plate. At what point do they make an adjustment on that? Because it seemed after Saturday, a couple of the comments, and after the weekend on Sunday, a couple of the comments that were made by Tony V, they're starting to get relatively frustrated with it. And Peebles has a really good arm. He's a good catch-throw guy. So what do you think, what are they going to do moving forward on that?
Yeah, I think they're just to the point now where it's such an issue. You're bottom 10 in the country in that category in stolen bases allowed. You've allowed essentially double what anybody else in the SEC has.
Yeah.
You've already allowed double what you allowed last year, albeit more games, makes it even worse. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, like Andrew said, when you're not hitting as many home runs, like this team hasn't scored 10 runs in a conference game since game 1 of A&M.
Yeah.
So you can't afford to just play for the strikeout and kind of, play deep, prevent the big inning, because those 1 or 2 run innings constantly are the difference in these games, right? And when you know you're going to score 10 to 12, it's like, hey, we got to prevent the 4-run, 5-run inning. So you don't really care if they're stealing bases, right. But it's to the point now where the philosophy will always be that, but it can't be bottom 10 in the country, right? It's never going to be top 10 like you are in ERA and home runs every year. But you've got to be somewhere in the middle of the pack to stay competitive and not have that be more of a factor than what you do well. Because right now, that is outweighing the things you do well.
And you brought up another point that I was going to touch on. We're not striking guys out. Other than Liam Doyle on Friday night, who we can kind of pencil in for 10-plus strikeouts, the bullpen as a whole, somewhat starting pitching as well, not punching tickets, and that makes those innings worse. You get some contact, maybe an error, a bloop single here, and you add that into what's become a snowball. Is there a way to fix that? We have good arms, guys with some good stuff, but then you toe the line of strikes versus walks. I'm going to put a guy on first, and now we're back to the run game again. Is there a way to kind of address that, or do we just try to find some momentum here at the end of the year?
Yeah. Well, I got a couple things on that, right? So more of the same what we've talked about. So the bullpen for us on the weekend, 11 2/3 innings pitched, 11 earned runs. Bullpen for Vandy, 12 1/3 innings pitched, 6 earned runs. Total runners left on base, Vandy 10 for the entire weekend, us 22. We had 12 on Sunday. Runners in scoring position, we hit 250, so better than what it has been, but still there were just opportunities where there weren't productive outs. So in the 7th inning on Sunday, we had a runner on second, nobody out. We ground out to the shortstop, runner doesn't advance, next guy grounds out to the shortstop, next guy doesn't score. If we just get that guy over the first at bat, then they're probably going to bring infield in, so he might not score, but it puts a lot of pressure on that shortstop to make the play.
Changes that at bat.
100%. And then I think it might have been on Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember, but we had runners on second and third with no outs. We don't score. You got to at least you got to at least bring one of those runs in, preferably two. And that's the type of things that just are killing them right now. And you had mentioned, we're not hitting more home runs than the other teams. I just kind of pulled up some stats. This is just SEC games in and of itself. Home run total, we've got 39, they've got 37. Stolen bases, we've got 14, they've got 62. Errors, we've got 31, they've got 14. That is not a recipe to win. And they're kind of in a predicament because this team, it's not really built to steal bases, right? I mean, the only burner that you really have is Jay.
And Newstrom.
Mm-hmm. Inslee, across the board, is just a phenomenal player, but he's not an absolute burner that can go steal 3 bases in a game at center field. You don't have it up the middle where you normally would with Keelan or Curley. Neither of those guys are burners. And so you don't really have a whole lot of ways to manufacture runs and put more pressure on the other team. And we're not hitting the long ball as consistently as we have in the past compared to the teams that we're facing. So, you combine those things and the bullpen struggling, it's just not a recipe for success right now.
So we pretty much touched on what they need to fix. I think if you're Tony, first thing is the run game. Secondly, he talked about this in his post game. His whole goal right now is to make sure that the guys are confident by the first pitch of each game. And that's just something that he hasn't had to work this hard at because you can see it on everybody's faces. Everybody's frustrated. Nobody more frustrated than him. He's trying to push different buttons. But where do you think the team is at mentally? And could Hoover or postseason be the reset that they need?
Yeah, I mean, a reset can come at any point, right? And who knows what will spark it. So we were the reset for A&M. A&M was the reset for Missouri this weekend, right? So, all it takes is one good game to get some momentum and build that confidence back. I do want to say one thing, though. It's not a lack of effort. I'm seeing a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of fans saying there's only 2 or 3 people on the team that actually care right now that are bringing effort. That's not the case. They're all trying as hard as they possibly can. Baseball is one of those sports where it's tough to judge effort, but I think right now there's just a lack of confidence, and so with that you start thinking more and you start pressing quite a bit, and then it shows like there's not the effort because you're pressing so hard and your natural ability is being overtaken by the lack of confidence.
Yeah. It's easy to point to Fisher and say, yeah, he fought because he hit 2 home runs. Like, that's not obviously he's trying, but same for Reese Chapman, who goes 0 for 4 with 4 Ks. That's not a lack of effort. No. It's a hard game, and it is hard to judge effort.
It may even be a trying too hard thing, and I think
100%.
That's something that the bullpen's been dealing with of maybe they are trying to punch guys out and missing. They're trying to be too fine with a pitch or too aggressive, and it turns into from a fastball outside to a fastball over the middle that gets hit out of the park. And it, like AJ said, it takes maybe one game to create like a good vibe atmosphere in the dugout or the clubhouse. And Arkansas might be the right place to do that. The energy is going to be there. And maybe it's a practice on Thursday night going into the series, or I guess it'll be Wednesday night this week with the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Maybe they have a home run derby before, the night before. Do something to keep the guys loose, just to create an atmosphere that is conducive to maybe trying less hard. And I know it's odd things to say, but
try and get it back to being fun, because once it becomes a job or something that is creating the anxiety of it, it becomes very hard to succeed. The home run derby, we did that our sophomore year at Ole Miss, and that was the first time we had ever done it. Normally, we were taught hit the ball off the L screen and BP, right? And we went out and we had a home run derby Thursday night before. We ended up putting either an 8 or an 11 spot on him on Friday night, hit like 3 or 4 home runs. So something like that. I had a coach tell me one time too. He said it's never as good as it seems and it's never as bad as it seems.
Yep.
And truer words could not be spoken about baseball, right? I mean, the game will humble you like that as soon as you need it. And when it's going bad, you're just one thing away.
It's really
turning around.
Really, this weekend, you're kind of one swing away, one strikeout here or there, but you can't know where it needs to come from until you're looking back in hindsight.
This episode of Hardball is brought to you by the Garza Law Firm. When you need an attorney, look for the best and be sure they're local. That's Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm, proud supporters of Tennessee baseball.
You brought up Arkansas, so closing out the regular season at Arkansas, a place where Tennessee hired Tony Vitello from, so another SEC weekend with plenty of storylines. Tennessee's fallen back in the rankings. They're anywhere from 14 to 17, depending on the poll. You're now fringe hosting just for a regional, much less a top 8 national seed. So plenty on the line for this one. They haven't won a game at Bottom Stadium, albeit only 2 series, but they've been swept both times under Tony Vitello at Arkansas. Arkansas coming off a series loss at LSU where they were really dominated, were able to squeeze out Game 3 to avoid the sweep. But Arkansas was kind of in the same boat as Tennessee and then swept Texas at home last weekend as kind of their get right, but they're coming off a series loss as well. And so all this battling for positioning coming down the stretch, it's hard not to go into that thinking kind of what needs to happen from a postseason perspective. But for Tennessee, I think it may be better for them to just simplify it and literally worry about each play and the game and just trying to dig your way out of this a little bit and maybe just let all that other stuff take care of itself. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it will take care of itself. We had my dad was talking to Coach Corbin after the game on Saturday, and he was talking about how difficult the league has been this year, right? And it's just some series, like you just mentioned, they sweep Texas, Arkansas sweeps Texas, and then they go to LSU and relatively get dominated. It's a week in, week out thing where one weekend you could go out and you can absolutely dominate. The next weekend you can get your teeth kicked in. It's about time for Tennessee to kick someone's teeth in. And I think hopefully Doyle can set the tone on Thursday, and then who knows what Saturday is or Friday, I guess, is going to entail. Will Phillips still be starting? Will it be somebody else? How can they get some of that mojo back?
I think it'll be Phillips with maybe a shorter leash. Mm-hmm. But is it in a weird way kind of a good place for Tennessee to go and maybe get their first series win at Arkansas under Vitello? Because it wouldn't make any sense, so it might make sense.
That would totally fit the SEC this year. We've seen some funky stuff happening, as you highlighted. Missouri going to A&M and sweeping them, one of the hottest teams in the SEC. And maybe we're just road warriors this year. We seem to play much better on the road. Maybe we don't want to host a regional at this point, just to kind of keep that road dog mentality going. But it's one or two plays a game, and I think if the team maybe is more process oriented, I'm gonna hammer like the Nick Saban line, do the next thing right, and be perfect in that one moment, and then let that momentum build. But we score a couple more guys in scoring position, maybe hit a homer instead of a strikeout, or hit a big single double to bring home some runs. That's the difference in these SEC games. It's such a grind, especially throughout the regular season. And you look at the schedule. Depending on who you are, you're playing 4 or 5 top 10 teams throughout the year. So the margin of victory or losing is so thin. It's not a huge adjustment, and it's easy for us to pick apart, pieces here and there throughout the game. But they're one hit away most of the time. So something like that, where you could maybe break a game open this weekend, get bases loaded, and hit a bases clearing double. That's what I'm looking for. Something to swing momentum in our favor and then just ride that wave into the postseason.
Yeah, definitely a big punch would be needed. And could be one of those deals where the big environment may play similar to Ole Miss, and it helps Tennessee kind of just flush everything out and not focus on what's been going on, but rather be in the moment and just kind of get lost in the game, if you will. But, certainly a lot at stake for this one, and it'll be a fun environment either way. Excited to watch. But any advice you would give them going into Baum Stadium this weekend?
Enjoy it. I mean, it is a fun place to play, and if you can go in there and win 2 out of 3 like we were just talking about,
could springboard the whole deal.
They could springboard the whole deal. I mean, you look at the entire body of work. It's a good team. Their record is still good. They're not as dominant in the SEC as they have been, but that's kind of unheard of, right? I mean, you're not consistently that dominant as they have been over the last, 2 years probably. We're kind of just coming back to the mean, which is fine. You've got, 7 teams in the top 10, something crazy like that. We've talked about how difficult of a grind it is. But Baum Stadium is a really fun place to play. It was my favorite place that we played when I was at UT. And if you can just go in there, enjoy the moment, and take advantage of the opportunities, who knows what can happen. You could come out winning 2-3. You could come out with a sweep, and then that could be the thing that springboards you to, a long SEC tournament run and a long postseason run.
Yeah, and I mean, outside of playing probably in the big leagues, a road series in the SEC is the most fun you'll ever have in a stadium. Yep. Energy-wise, crowd-wise, people yelling at you, talking trash. So I just hope the guys, like AJ said, enjoy the moment, kind of soak it in, and just go have fun.
No doubt. Well, we appreciate everyone watching the show. Please be sure to like and subscribe, show your support, and we'll see you next week.